Good evening. I'm Randy Garber. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, and I thank the sponsors for taking time to put this event together. I grew up on a farm south of Berwick, which is northwest of Sabetha. I graduated from Sabetha High School in 1969 and joined the U.S. Navy in September of that year. I scored high enough on the exam to enter the Navy to have the opportunity to attend advanced electronics school. In order to qualify, I would have to extend my 4-year enlistment to 6 years. Halfway through the basic training period, I was entered into a room and with several other recruits and asked to commit to another 2 years, and I told them no, I would get out of that organization as soon as possible, and 20 years later I did just that. So after my naval service, I stayed in the Great Lakes area and taught electronics and gun school as a civilian. I was selected as gun school instructor of the year in 1994, moved back to Sabetha in 95. Since returning to Sabetha, I've owned my own business and until recently was employed by Edelman's Inc. as heating and cooling technician, plumber, and general laborer. 2 years ago, I ran for state representative. I had not been involved in the political realm other than voting and complaining about those running our state and country. I have gained respect for anyone who runs for office. While I will not agree with some of their ideas, it takes much work and dedication to run a successful campaign. I'm a Republican, but more importantly, I'm a social and fiscal conservative. And while the majority of my support comes from Republicans, I have met many conservative Democrats and unaffiliated voters who support my beliefs and ideals. I'm an independent thinker, and I do my best to pass legislation that benefits Kansas citizens, both now and in the future. As the evening unfolds, I hope to convince those who do not know me and strengthen the trust of the current supporters that, if elected, I will represent you with fairness and integrity.
Thank you very much, Representative Garber. Mr. Stones, it's your turn. You have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Okay, I'm Dennis Stones. I spent 37 years in education, retired last July 1st of 2012. Quite honestly, I never had any dreams of being a politician. I don't consider myself to be a politician. My family, I have two kids, 8 grandchildren. I have some issues that I think are going to be very important to the state of Kansas. Some of those are state budgeting and school finance. Jobs, and I'm not only concerned about creating new jobs, but I think there are a lot of other jobs that have been lost over the past 2, 3, 4 years that we need to try to find ways to bring them back and bring people to Kansas. I'm also looking for a fair and equitable tax structures. I think we're skewing our tax structure to this point to where it's going to be primarily based on property tax, and I think that's going to be a real detriment to our young people and our businesses as they go through. I'm running as a Democrat. I'm probably one of the most conservative Democrats in the country. In my opinion, I think we need to be fiscally responsible. We need to spend our money wisely and spend it as if it were our own. I believe that you can run as a Democrat, you can run as a Republican, but if you're elected when you get to Kansas, you better become a Kansas when you get to the Topeka. And I think we do not, from what I've observed in the legislature, we do not work together as two parties. That needs to happen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stones. And you determined which candidate gets the first opportunity at the first question. We had a coin toss with a designated representative of each campaign as a witness. Mr. Stones, you won the coin toss, and you will get the first question. The first question comes from Russ McCord of Atchison, and you have 2 minutes to answer it. If you had absolute power to cut 2 expense items from the budget, what would they be, and how much would be saved? 2 minutes.
Well, how much would we save? I guess I don't know if I can tell you that. You need to be in the legislature before you can find some of this kind of stuff out. I would look at trying to pare back our state automobiles and some of those kinds of things that are going on, and maybe that's been done, but how much will that save us? I can't tell you, and I don't know how many people probably can unless you're in the post audit. I would take a strong look at we have to bring our jobs closer together and put some of these things together so that one entity is maybe taking up some of the other, bringing the people together, bringing I don't even know how to say it, but the people that are the different business areas in the state, trying to condense that down to where it can be more beneficial to our state. Being able to answer that, honestly, till you're in the legislature and you can see some of those numbers and things, I can't tell you how that's going to happen.
Okay.
And I don't know that anybody can if they're beginners down there.
All right. Thank you very much, Representative or Mr. Stones. Representative Garber, you have 2 minutes for this question. If you had absolute power to cut 2 expense items from the budget, what would they be and how much would be saved?
That's a very good question. That Mr. Stones is right. It's hard to determine any 2 items that could be cut. I have thought about advocating for one, which would be a 60-day session, vice a 90-day session, which I'm not sure exactly how much that would save. I also believe that we could meet every other year and establish a 2-year budget instead of 1. Again, that would save, maybe $10 million. Not a lot, but every savings helps. It is very hard. The budget is one of the most difficult things to understand, I believe, in the legislature, and trying to do it. It's fortunate that we have people who have been there for several years that can help the new people come in. But even at that, with all of the other responsibilities, it's hard to know exactly what to do. So we rely a lot on our leadership. And other than that, I really can't say much more.
Okay. Thank you very much, Representative Garber. And seeing no rebuttals, we will move on to...
Is that what this is for?
Yeah, that is what it's for right there. That is, please indicate when you like to do that. You will have 90 seconds for that rebuttal, and your rebuttal time begins now.
Okay. I would echo a little bit about what Representative Garber is saying. But one of the things, if we want to save money, maybe we ought to try to get done in 90 days if that's the length of the session, instead of going overboard and going longer days. And maybe, and doing the job that we were sent down there to do and get it done in the amount of time that we're down there for. It seems to me, as a layperson sitting back here, watching all of this unfold, there's not a lot happens, and I know it's behind the scenes, but not a lot happens between the first half, or the beginning of the session and the first half. It all takes place in 24-hour sessions, and some of these guys I know, they go long hours. It just seems to me like maybe we can make some of those kinds of things happen. I agree with him. Maybe every 2 years, or I facetiously said one time maybe we ought to go to a unicameral and go every 5 years, but that's not going to happen.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stones. Representative Garber has indicated that he would like a rebuttal, and your 90 seconds begins now.
Yes, there is a lot that goes on down there. I really wanted to be done in 90 days this last time also. But with the redistricting and the problems that we had there, it didn't happen. I did, however, waive my salary for those remaining 8 days that we were in session. And I do believe that we do need to work together more, and we will be done in 90 days if we do that. The problem is with the bills going to committee in each House, in the House and the Senate, each chamber, and then coming together, they have to go through another committee process. They come back to the House floors, and it just takes time. And when we get to the end and have many important things, such as the budget, we have to take the time to try to get that right. So,
all right, thank you very much, Representative Garber. And our next question comes from Amber Dieters from Sabetha. What do you think is wrong with the way education is funded in Kansas? And if elected, what would you attempt to do to fix it? And Representative Garber, you now are going up first with this question. You have 2 minutes.
The way education is funded, the education funding formula is very hard to understand, and I'm sure Mr. Stones is going to help me out with that. He's been involved in that quite a while. I can't say that it's completely broken at this time. What I think we need to do is find more ways to be more efficient, and I think our rural schools probably do that better than our urban schools. It is very expensive to educate our children, but to say that the state has cut the budget drastically in the last 4 years is kind of a misnomer, because even though the base state aid per pupil goes down, there are other factors that are considered in which actually raises that number. And if you look at the charts that show school spending, you will see that all but a couple of years in the last 20 years, state spending has gone up on schools. My idea with education is it needs to be results-based. And more money has proven that it does not raise the results. It does not make the results better. That comes right off the Department of Education website when you see the test scores and see that even though we've added more and more money, we've increased the spending drastically in the last 7 years, the scores have basically remained the same. They haven't risen at the level that so some people say smaller classrooms is the answer. I don't think that's the answer either. I think it's just, there's other things like maybe discipline would probably help a little bit. More parental input and other things.
Representative Garber, thank you very much. And Mr. Stones, you now have 2 minutes for this question. What do you think is wrong with the way education is funded in Kansas? And if elected, what would you do to attempt to fix that? 2 minutes.
Well, I think honestly, I don't think the formula is wrong. It's doing what it was designed to do. The problem that we have with the formula is that it, as Representative Garber said, it puts money in places that are not discretionary places. It puts money in areas of specific places for it to be spent. So therefore, you can't use it for utilities. You can't use it for food, those kinds of things. There are specific funds. We have been, as school districts, we have cut the schools in the state by over 500. I think $500 million is what $500 million since 2008. Now, there are some differences, and a lot of that dollars that have gone in there are capital outlay dollars for state aid. It's CAPERS money that now flows through the budgets, and that money goes in there, and that calculates into the base for per pupil costs. I think that he's exactly right. The formula is a very complicated formula, but I would try to loosen up some of that so that buildings and the superintendents and boards would have some discretion on how some of that is spent and where it will go. I did try a couple times, and I do want to be able to educate the people, and that was my goal all the way through, and I never got that opportunity to educate, especially some of our legislators. And I would go to the State House to do some of that. Another thing that was cut from us is CanEd. CanEd's going away from us in January, and that is big impact, has a big impact on our small schools because a lot of our small schools are doing distance learning and teaching courses around through distant learning. And that's, without that, most of the courses that they teach wouldn't be able to be offered.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stones. Your time is up, and Representative Garber has indicated that he would like a rebuttal.